You're watching Worldview Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everyone, welcome. I am Tamara Scott. It is the Tamara Scott Show, and we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. We just try to help you navigate all of what we're hearing, the headlines, the politicians' promises, the accusations, and just kind of weave our way through it in a godly manner. If God expects us to live through it, He's directed us how to do it somewhere in His Word. And so today we've got a full day, and I'm so excited. I get to have my friend on, right? The best thing about this show is I get to meet wonderful, incredible, articulate, intelligent people, whether, experts of incredible organizations, at the state level, like today we have a statewide elected official, or whether it's somebody over the backyard fence who's been through an experience, who's studied and gained extraordinary knowledge. I get to meet the most incredible people in here, incredible stories. And then I get to meet a lot of you as my viewers. You'll text me, you'll send me messages. So thank you to all of you who do that. I don't keep up with that very well, but thank you so much for that. All right, so joining me today is Heidi Engelhardt. She is the Republican National Committee woman for South Dakota, my counterpart in the Midwest region for the RNC, and just a delight. Makes the meetings a lot more fun when you've got like-minded people there who have also been in the battle, who are willing to stand in the fight. And so she's going to join me today. We're going to talk about our recent trip to the Reagan Ranch, and we'll share it with you. Not a lot of people get to go there, I don't think. We'll share it with you. She took all kinds of pictures. I did not, which will stun my family. But I'm eating up storage like none other, and I don't want to buy more cloud. And so I'm just kind of sitting back on some of my photos because I have so many I can't find them when I want them anyway. So she took great photos. We'll go through her photos, and then we'll talk a little bit more about President's Day as we close out this President's Week. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And I have a story from the Nixon family, and I spoke with a member of the family this week. We texted, and they said, just go ahead and read what you have. So we'll do that. So appreciate that. Heidi, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on. And thank you for the kind words. You set the bar really high.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to talk about convention of states first because South Dakota is under siege. And I think from what it sounds, it may have happened by the time this airs Friday, but we expect likely fall to South Dakota. And I've got my issue on that. I think when you all did your primaries over the CO2 eminent domain issue, which was wonderful, you ousted people who were wrong on the issue, but we have new people who don't know the danger of a convention. And COS, Convention of States, Santorum, just swoop in there. I heard last night they were taking them to dinner. I heard all kinds of things. So that's how they operate, promises and threats. And if they can't swoo you, then they try to smite you. So can't just present their argument. So what's going on there?
Okay, so two things will be happening. The Senate Joint Resolution was smoked out. It failed in committee. It was smoked out on the floor. In South Dakota, we have a process that if something fails in committee, it can still be brought to the floor for a vote by what we call a smokeout. Only 1/3 of the House needs to stand for that. It did get its vote, so it's going to go to the floor for a vote on that. And I think that's this afternoon. The other one that I'm watching is House Bill 1196. And this is a bill, and it went through committee this morning. It didn't pass committee. It's going to go to another discussion this afternoon in the committee hearing this afternoon. This bill tries to set standards for state delegates chosen to serve on a Article 5 convention. The problem with this is, if you read Article 5, it's the Congress, that's the first words. Congress calls the convention. States can apply, and we can ratify. Two ways on ratification, either through our legislature or a convention of the people. So what this is trying to do, because people are uneasy about an Article 5 convention and getting out of control, this is an 8-page bill that tries to control the delegates, down to they have to take a certain oath of office, because supposedly our oath of office that's in our Constitution is not good enough. But the point of this is, okay.
For everybody, just hold right there. The oath that was good enough for Washington, was good enough for Jefferson, was good enough for Madison, even up through time, is not good enough for this. And to Santorum's, I've heard him say this, we're going to have them sign a pledge, like we never thought about that before. Like, elected officials today aren't willing to uphold their pledge. If they would uphold the oath, remember Robert Brown tells you the problem is not the Constitution. The solution is the Constitution, Article 6, not 5, upholding the oath, holding them accountable, upholding the oath. If they were willing to do that, controlling the spending, staying with enumerated powers, legislators and the state legislators upholding their oath to nullify things that were not constitutional, we would not be in this issue. The Constitution was written for a moral and religious people. It's inadequate for any other. There lies our problem. All right, so Santorum and Meckler are going to come up with this fantasy pledge, and everybody's going to sign it and behave. Wow.
Correct. Yes. Outside of the state legislature thinks that they can totally control this federal proceeding. And I think that's where they're just going wrong on this. They're not necessarily understanding this is a federal proceeding. From Rick Santorum's testimony this morning, he claims that this is a state issue. This is not a federal proceeding. So South Dakota has term limits. Those term limits, that's in our that's in our South Dakota Constitution. And it was to apply to our federal elected officials also. The reason it doesn't is the Supreme Court said the state cannot apply standards to federal elected or federal proceedings. That's why our current legislators are under term limits, but our federal legislators are not. So this is an 8-page, in my opinion, complete lie to try to settle some of the legislators that are concerned and would probably vote against an Article 5 convention. And it tries to settle them so that they will vote for this Article 5 convention. So that was up in committee. It goes to committee discussion again this afternoon. So by Friday, it could be on the floor in the afternoon.
All right. So by the time you hear this, folks, it may be a done deal, but you can always call your state legislators and let them know it is not a good idea. It is not the help. The issue is not a lack of content needing changed in our Constitution. It is a lack of character needing corrected in our Congress. I said that really well. I need to snip that. Thomas, we need to snip that. I like that. That's exactly it. I'll see if I can say it again. The issue is not a lack of content in our Constitution needing changed. It is a lack of character needing corrected in our Congress. That is the issue that we're dealing with. All right. And Santorum said in the testimony I listened to from the 11th, it's hard to take benefits away from people and it's hard to cut entitlements. So I don't think, are they not going after that? I'd heard they weren't going to go after that anymore. Then he throws out the 9. We're going to go after limiting the court to 9. They do the same thing they did in the 70s and the 80s to Phyllis Schlafly. They take whatever may, spaghetti at the wall, whatever may stick. What's the hot button issue? Term limits. They're building on the frustrations of people with term limits, which is not going to fix the problem. It's going to actually increase apathy in a variety of other ways and remove control from the voters to out-of-state groups with money who are now going to interfere in your state elections like you've never seen before. It also, let's see, what balanced budget, which we now know the issues. We've talked about the issues with the balanced budget not solving anything. If you just go back to a enumerated powers, limits what they can spend money on. All right, anything wrapping up on that, Miss Heidi?
So it's HB 1196. It needs to pass committee. If it passes committee, it goes to the floor. So this could have still a process that we can get this killed. It may end up in the Senate. Let's hope not. Otherwise, the other one is Senate Joint Resolution 503, and I think that's on the floor Wednesday afternoon. So we'll see how that one works out. But prayers, people. I ask for prayers on this. This is a serious matter.
Absolutely. And give me those numbers again, because I didn't write them down. So what are those numbers again?
So the one that's the 8-page bill to control the delegates is House Bill 1196. And then the Convention of States resolution is Senate Joint Resolution 503.
And by the way, I think the Congressional Budget Office or the Congressional Research Office has already said it will be up to Congress, not the states. And I think there's a court case in Iowa. I'd have to go back and look at the name on that they tried this on a state convention. And they said, once you go to a convention, you have no control over the delegates. They are sovereign. So there you go. We had the delegates at the 1787 convention commissioned from their states in writing, and Robert Brown has taken us through all of those commissions where they exceeded what they were told to do by just revising the Articles of Confederation. They tossed them out, started with a whole new constitution. And so Santorum always tells us, and Thomas, if I forgot to set my timer here, let me know if I'm running out of time, Thomas, but Santorum always promises us nothing will happen. I don't know how you get paid. I said it the other day, $333,000 plus expenses and perks to go around promoting something you tell people likely will never happen. If it does, not much of anything will happen. In South Dakota in 2022, we have them on video saying something. I don't think anything major, it's fairly moderate stuff that will happen. That's his save all, right? But I don't know how they do that, honestly. And Mark Meckler says, we don't need these bills about limiting delegates. It's just to give people comfort. I think he said that in the Wyoming hearing. How do you do that, honestly, when we have a photo of Mark Meckler and Professor Lessig on the stage together? So they obviously are aware of each other. Thomas, I don't know if you can pull up the article, but the article I gave you from December 2016, I'll remember what was happening in 2016. Professor Lessig was a Harvard, I think he's Harvard trained, was an Obama advisor, and he was telling people, he was instructive, he was telling people if they would usurp the results of the 2016 vote, the Electoral College, and change their electoral vote, he would offer them, any elector who may face legal consequences, he would offer them his help switching their vote from a Trump. And one of the electors said to me, there you go, thank you so much. One of the electors said to me, that borders on bribery, carried to the extreme. The day may come when an elector could be sold to the highest bidder. If you don't think that will happen at a convention, and here's the guy pushing a convention right there, Lessig is pushing a convention. You don't think this behavior will happen at a convention? You are dreaming. Somebody's going to be trying it, and you won't have elected officials worried about your next vote for next term, because it's a convention that's over, right? And so there's no repercussion for them. And I don't care what they say in their pledge. I don't see it holding. And then they say, now we believe more than half the number needed. Lessig said, we now believe we have more than half the number needed to change the result. Seriously considering making the vote. I should have looked it up. I think that the votes that were changed away from Hillary that year. They did not have the votes he was talking about. This would be inaccurate. Whether you want to say it's honest or not, that's up to you. But his other portion of this, he called and he wrote a book on the Republic, Lost. And on page 293 of his 2011 book, How Money Corrupts Congress and a Plan to Stop It, he called for a constitutional convention as the only way to make a fundamentally transformative change that he wants. Even though it's never happened, however, he states, a constitutional convention is one final plausibility strategy for forcing fundamental reform into Congress. What was that form? He wanted to rewrite the Constitution. But nothing big will happen, right? Santorum acts like they've never seen. Nothing big will happen. Lessig has offered the abolition of the Electoral College as one of the objectives at a convention of states or constitutional convention, and they can say are two different things. They are not two different things. They are the same. Call them what you will. So there you are. He's running. He wants a convention, a constitutional convention. If you're going to be dealing with our U.S. Constitution, it is a constitutional convention, whether you call it a convention of states or not convening, to abolish electoral college and to rewrite the Constitution. There it is, right there. And when asked about a runaway convention, he said, maybe we should have more of them. Maybe we should have more of them. So everything that Santorum is telling you, shush, shush, not a concern, you're spreading fear, you're just frightened. The people that are promoting this convention are saying outright they want, and he's not the only one abolishing the Electoral College. There are more articles that I'll try and get together. We'll put them up for you one day, but this is not a lone shark here. This is the movement. All right, they want to change our Constitution. All right, Heidi, anything else on this?
This is a comfort bill. Why do we need an 8-page bill if this isn't a serious process or that something could go wrong? This is an 8-page bill to try to control the whole thing. If it was no big deal, this wouldn't be needed. So it's blatantly telling you this is a big deal.
Yeah, and I wish maybe during the break I can find the testimony of him. I think it was Wyoming saying, we did this just to give people comfort because it won't have teeth. That's what it is. And he admits people wouldn't vote for an open convention. He gets that. He knows it. All right, we've got to go to our first break, I think. And also they said in one of the, in Santorum's 2011, February 11th testimony that Kansas was the last group just a couple weeks ago because they sued Kansas. They have such little respect for the people of Kansas and the Constitution of Kansas that they sued them to get the 2/3 bar removed. And yet they're telling us what ratification will protect us. Don't think they won't change ratification at a convention either. They are giving us every indication that they have no respect for decorum, for precedent, for Constitution. All right, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Well, much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. WorldviewWater.net. WorldviewWater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. WorldviewWater.net.
I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. All right, I have the clip, I think is the right one. I can only do it audio, and Thomas will have to turn up the volume because I don't know how loud it's going to be. I'll put the microphone right up to it if I can. Let me know if you can hear this. This is, I think, from Wyoming, and it might be 2023. I'm not sure, but someone asked, "Why are you even offering these if it's not a concern? Why are you offering these bills?" All right, so let's try this, and maybe I'll just send it to you. Would it be faster if I just sent it to you, Thomas? Should I just do that? I'll send it to you. Okay, I'll send it to you real quickly. And okay, I'm doing that. I'm not apparently real fast at it, but I'm doing that. And then Heidi, I want to get to Reagan Ranch. We will come back on this one. I don't know how long it takes you to download this, Thomas, but it's coming. All right, so it's coming through right now. Let me know when you get it. Let me know when you get it. All right, so Heidi, let's go through our Reagan Ranch stuff. By the way, Convention of States tried to insinuate that Reagan supported a Convention of States, and no, he didn't. And by the way, he referred to it as Constitutional Convention. So they were saying that they themselves are admitting there's no difference between the two titles. But he acknowledged it. There's a difference in acknowledging it. He said, yes, if Congress doesn't pay attention, this is a shot across the bow to get their attention. But then he said, I myself prefer the legislative manner. So certainly not an endorsement, right? The way we've done it before. And then in a later interview, someone asked him about it, and he said, oh, a convention, anything could happen. He called it an emergency hatch or a safety valve. I wouldn't call it a safety valve. I would call it an emergency hatch because you may survive, but your Constitution won't. All right, you've got it ready. Let's play it and see what we have.
So if there's no risk, then why did you put limitations on the enabling and educate the three basic limitations in the laws that you're passing?
So as opposed to doing a general convention.
Correct.
Yeah. So the reason is for narrative. In other words, if we were to put out there to the world that, hey, we're just going to have a convention, we have no idea what we're going to talk about at this convention, then frankly, nobody would support it because there'd be so much fear out there. Everybody would be afraid that we had to frame it in a way. I mean, this is one of the things that I think, I'm just going to say this generally, libertarians and conservatives are really bad at narrative. We just generally don't understand narrative. And if you don't frame a political discussion in the correct way, you lose.
So we're just really bad. We don't get it. So they have to lie to us or comfort us with something they can't really guarantee is going to be the case. And remember, this took you what Lessig wants to do. We've already this week played the page from Gavin Newsom's website where he says he wants a convention to insert the 28th Amendment, which he won't touch the Second Amendment, but it's going to gut the Second Amendment. So that, folks, this is it's not necessary. It is not necessary. Everything we have is already in the Constitution if we would uphold it and use it. As gubernatorial candidate Brad Sherman says here in Iowa, it doesn't need fixed, it needs followed. The Constitution needs followed. All right, Heidi, anything to add before we go on to Reagan Ranch?
Today, Rick Santorum said that we are just adding words to this, and it is the exact opposite because we are reading that article as it is. They're adding all of this to it. So, yeah, people call. If you can, HB 1196, we need to get this stopped.
All righty. Thank you so much. And we'll pray that it hits a snag before this show airs. All right. So Reagan Ranch, let's see. We went there in January with the RNC. It was a great honor to get to be there. Your thoughts on the ranch, or do you want to have Thomas just put some of our photos up and we'll just discuss them as we go through?
Well, I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I felt so honored to be able to be there. It's beautiful. Yeah, just incredibly honored to be able to tour that.
And Heidi had the window going, okay, that's the first photo right there. That's actually on our last photo we were leaving. That's our friends that were in our group on the tour. And that is the valley right behind us where we're facing in that photo is where the helicopter pad was. And they said Reagan would walk to this part and he would, I don't know if he read or he would recite, Psalms 121. And Heidi, I have that memorized. I wish I would have asked that day if I could have just recited it, because it's only 8 verses, but I have it memorized. And it's just so lovely. It is where, I looked at I looked to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the maker of heaven and earth. He who watches over you will not let your foot slip, for he never sleeps. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will never sleep nor slumber. He will be your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. He who watches you will preserve your soul and keep you from all evil. He will watch your going out and your coming in, both now and forevermore. I wish I would have just asked if I could have said it that day. But that was Reagan he would read that Psalms 121 or recite it when he was there, probably every time he got on the helicopter. So, all right, let's go to the next photo. Heidi?
So this is in the Secret Service building, and we all kind of had to laugh. And they said that they had the top of the line equipment. So here we have the phones, the map, and you can kind of look out the window, and then you look from the window, you're looking down on the house. There's another picture there that I said, yes, there we go, the top of the line equipment. So it just goes to show you what they were using back then. And then if you can see in that, this Secret Service building looks over the house.
And he was president in 81 to 89. So there you go. That little house right there. Now, the glass windows you see there is what they told us that Reagan himself put that addition. It was what, a porch, Heidi? Is that what it was? A screened-in porch?
Right. It was a screened-in porch, and then he built that in, and then I think they called it the L-shaped room.
Yes. Yeah, because it just went around the existing house. It was an L-shaped family room or little room, and they had a table in there, a little fireplace, and his bookshelves in there. Okay, let's go back real quick to that sign. Heidi, what was the deal? They called it 1600 Penn Avenue. Is that what they called it, the Reagans?
I can't read that picture, but it was Penna Avenue or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go, Penna Avenue, as though like 1600 Washington, Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. And it was called the Western White House,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, nope, you're absolutely correct. And the table in the next photo, or did we skip that table now? There you go. Do you remember the story there?
That is where he signed, and you know what was that it was a tax relief bill that was signed there. Congress had passed it, and they flew in with it, and he signed that bill right there.
And that is a reconstruction or a reproduction, right? The real table, I think, is in his museum or the Reagan Library, one of the two.
Right. I think you're correct on that one. And I was just trying to find what that one was called. The American Tax Relief Plan or something, but biggest tax cut, largest tax cut. So, yeah.
All right.
82, I think.
So this is in his stable, in his, what do they call that room? Tack room. He and Mrs. Reagan, did they ride? I don't know if it was every day, but they did enjoy riding together. And that is his, do you remember the Secret Service agent that rode with him all the time?
Sorry about the brown horse and the white horse. They had switched to 2 white horses instead. How they, see, now it's 2 white horses because they were out riding, and President Reagan always rode on a white horse, and his Secret Service agent that always rode with him was on a brown horse. And it made Reagan just a full target. So that's why they switched from different colors and they started riding on the same color.
Yep.
And Reagan always rode English. He did not ride Western. He rode English.
No, that surprised me too. And I think, is this Queen, the Queen of England? This is Queen Elizabeth and her husband. And they told us, okay, John Barletta is the agent, the Secret Service agent, who I think is probably one of the longest record-serving agents, stayed with Reagan even after his presidency. And I think there was an incredibly close confidant and friendship there. We may come back to that story, but do you remember the story of coming up the hill with Queen Elizabeth? Were they supposed to helicopter her in and couldn't?
Yes. So she was supposed to, I think, on her yacht, they were doing a West Coast tour. So on the yacht was supposed to come in and be at Santa Barbara. Instead, it stayed down in Long Beach, I think it was. And then they did helicopter her into Santa Barbara, but they had to drive. They drove up the hill. So I don't know, maybe that helicopter pad wasn't there. I'm not sure, but they drove up the hill and it was flooding, just terrible. And I guess they had to wear their boots because I remember them saying something about water coming into the vehicle. I'm going to tell you what, that road going up to the ranch, we went up on a beautiful day. I ended up car sick. And at first, when they said that could happen, I kind of poo-pooed that and thought, yeah, right. Well, no, it definitely can happen. So the road is, well, it's a kind of a beautiful drive, but it's harrowing. That road is terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't imagine her going in under those conditions. But
Right.
But they did arrive. They did not ride horse that day. That's what they wanted to do because President Reagan rode horse with her at I think at Windsor, and so he invited her to his ranch, and but the horseback riding was canceled, and instead they served the Reagans served a Mexican kind of cuisine, a California Mexican cuisine with enchiladas, chili rellenos, tacos, guacamole, and the refried beans. And the story is said that Queen Elizabeth made a comment that she really enjoyed those used beans.
Reused
So
beans.
it's a cute story.
Reused beans. Yeah, that's what she called them. And that's what they are. I get where she's saying that. All right. And there's more to that story, too. Something with the wine and how they got a wine cooler after that event as well, which is rather interesting. We need to go to our break. We'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned. More photos and more stories.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango-colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro Helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help with Numi Neuro, the mango-colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best. All right. So let's go back to some of our photos. It's Heidi Engelhardt, National Committee Woman from South Dakota. The RNC recently, we go to a lot of meetings and we don't have fun things planned. Sometimes we don't even get out of the hotel between the meetings. And so this was kind of a real treat for us to get to do this event. This was, let me see, was this the gun room or the TAC room? Help me out.
I think that's the gun room, TAC room. I think over to the side is where they kept the guns. And yep. Right, yeah, there. Yeah, it was just so fun. It was fun to see, but it also took you back to a simpler time. How the Reagans lived when they were at the ranch. There seemed to be a real love, the Secret Service, for the Reagans, a real caring. And I heard stories of how they were so kind to the Secret Service agents. And, because they would go up there and they would have to stay, and they didn't get to go home to see family. So it's nice to know how well the Reagans treated them.
Yeah, right. They did treat them extremely well. All right, let's scroll through some of the other pictures if we can. Just a mannequin there with the uniform. Remember, this was the 80s and on. From the 80s and on. Now, Nancy Reagan and President, before he was president, had bought this land. They had bought this farm. So, ranch, whatever you want to call it, up on the hill. It's up into the hilltop. You are driving up an incline on questionable roads. And we talked about, there it is, isn't that beautiful? And we talked about, and you could see where the Secret Service had such a concern. But imagine Queen Elizabeth had to put her feet up on the seat in the car because water was coming through the vehicle as they were driving up the road. How do you trust another leader? I don't know that some of our leaders would trust each other that well right now, but I think Margaret Thatcher, the Pope, I think there was a friendship between Reagans and that group during that time. Remember the Cold War. I think there was a friendship and a trusted friendship there. All right, let's keep scrolling through some of those photos if we can. I don't remember. Yeah, do you remember that story?
No, but it was so fun just to get to go into his shop and see his tools, and just imagining that and it wasn't big. It's small and plain and simple, but that he was there working, and he was so happy when he was there.
And he was doing the labor. They helped him out and did a portion of a fence, and he said, no, this is mine. I want to be part of it. He wanted to do the labor, and I really think this helped keep him grounded. I think it's what helps keep our Senator Grassley grounded. He comes back home, and I don't know if it's mowing the lawn, driving the tractor, whatever he's doing, he stays grounded. I think getting away from DC and breathing fresh air, the sunshine, the being able to have your mind be calm. I think that's why he just was able to that. And he'd already lived a full life. At 69, he became president. He'd already had a full career. He wasn't looking for the next rung on the career ladder. I think that's key as well. Let's go on to some of the other photos. There you go. That is the TAC room again. This was our guide. He just did a great job, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Now there's the English saddles. The other picture with the tour guide was showing the Western saddles and the Western gear. So he had many people that came up and rode Western So that's why that was there. And then he, like I said, he wrote English. There's a picture on that wall of he and Margaret Thatcher, and I know he and Margaret Thatcher had such a good relationship, and she's a leader I admire. So, but I know how they both stood so strong on fighting communism, and they absolutely refused to back down. And how we saw um, the Soviet Union fall after that. Communism fell after that, and I think most of it had to do with these two strong leaders.
Yeah, I need to ask Brandon because I think he could tell me. I think from what it was explained to me, Fred Schwartz, who used to write the paper on the Communism Report with David Noble, who started the Summit Ministries, I think Reagan used to go and hear him speak. He would go and listen to him so often that when Fred couldn't give the speech one time, he said to Reagan, "Why don't you give it for me?" And so when Reagan put those words, Mr. Gorbachev, take down this wall, we've heard the stories that the staff said, you can't put that in there, you have to take that out. And he kept it in the speech. But I'm told, and I don't know if Reagan's listening, Thomas, if you can ask Reagan if he's in the studio, I'm told that he sent a copy of it to Fred Schwartz, who since passed away, and said, do you recognize it? This was for you. So all that training he'd taken from Fred. Do we have more photos we can go through? That's it. Okay, I'm looking for one of my photos because I took the photo of the pop machine, the vending machine. And remember, this is back in the 80s. Everything looks so archaic. But I took a photo of the pop machine because it had, if I can do it from memory, Fresca, Dr. Pepper, Try It Dr. Pepper, and I think maybe a Coke and then a root beer. But that was for the Secret Service to have in their little, like a double wide mobile home. That's what some of those offices, when you just think how primitive it was, how simple it was, and yet how secure they needed to be. Do we have time to tell the story about Reagan and his weapon? Do you remember that story, Heidi?
Oh, yeah, that was with Lake Lucky, and I think he made that lake himself. But as far as Lake Lucky, there was a blue heron that would come and land in there, and the Reagans kept that stocked with goldfish, and it would eat the goldfish. And President Reagan did not want that to happen. So he shot at that blue heron. Of course, then you had the Secret Service, and communication lines got crossed, but the Secret Service agent said President shot, meaning the president was the one who made the shot. But of course, President shot, they thought that President Reagan had been shot. So after that, he was not allowed to carry a firearm anymore.
And he was after the attempted assassination on his life. So they were at already a raised alert for that. And he purposely did not shoot at the heron. He shot beside the heron because he just wanted to scare it off the lake. All right. Thomas, how are we doing on time? Are we okay? 2 minutes till break. All right. So real quickly, we weren't allowed to take photos inside the home. And I appreciate that. I really do. Would I have loved to had some? Sure. You have photos and books. They gave us a pile of books to bring home, and there are photos inside. But I so love that they're protecting the intimacy, the privacy of that family. But Heidi, one of the things we enjoyed was just the simplicity, the small little makeshift showers that they had put in the bathroom areas. There were 2 bathrooms in that small little house, one for the individual who did the cooking for them, and then one for Nancy and Ron, and then the bedroom. And I don't know, do you want to share with our guests that the way the bedroom was arranged?
So when they bought the place, there were 2 twin beds, and he didn't want to buy another bed, so he slid those 2 twin beds together and zip tied them. And that's what they did. He put a little bench at the end of the bed because he was tall, and that was for his feet. So it was just simple. And yes, they could have afforded to buy a new bed, but he just absolutely was not going to. So yeah, it's just the simpleness of it. And don't be afraid to have hospitality. This was there was nothing fancy about this. And just think, you had the Queen of England there.
The Queen of England. Who else? I'd have to go through the list, but Gorbachev. We didn't see the picture of the gas pump. He had a gas pump there on his property. And was that just for look or did it work? I can't remember. I think it did work.
I think it did work, but what was funny about that is when the Soviets were there, they were all crowding around that gas pump, and they were just so taken by that and then they went home and told people that Americans, every single one of them, have a gas pump in their yard.
Yeah, they just have so much in America that everybody has their own gas pump. And that's true on agricultural ranches and farms. I think they do have for diesel, for tractors, for that type of thing. But yeah, that was rather funny. All right, and then we did the lovely trek back down the hill, but it was just so good to see the simplicity, as you said. Even the nightstands that were there, I think when they moved in, they didn't change a lot of furniture. I don't know if they added the table when he built the L room where the table sat. They didn't change a lot of furniture. And there were two fireplaces. I'm guessing that's how they heated it most often. And the end tables weren't even turned with the drawers facing out. They were turned towards the bed because I think there wasn't enough room to have the bed together and both end tables there. So they just turned them in. They just lived so simply. What a lesson for all of us in this world of paparazzi and mansions and everybody trying to live it up and outdo each other, even us individuals trying to outdo each other on Facebook, sometimes on social media. So just a good lesson to all of us. Closing thoughts, Heidi, on Reagan?
Simple life. Just a simple life. Remember when I asked you, I don't remember seeing a kitchen. Was there a kitchen? It's so small that I missed it. Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I knew a part of them.
Yeah. Right? I know you walked out just loving them so much more. All right, we've got to go to break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about the Nixons a little bit. I think it's a lovely story of compassion and commitment on the Nixon family. We don't hear about them very much. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right. So we've talked about the Reagan Ranch, which not a lot of people get to go to the Reagan Ranch. It's Young Republicans that have it, isn't it? Or it's not Young Republicans. What is the name of the group that has it? I don't have my information with me. Heidi, do you remember?
Young Americans.
Young Americans, young somebody, Young Americans. And they actually have a museum down in the city of Santa Barbara, where we were. We walked through that as well, which was also interesting to see. So, all right, this next one, Thomas, if you will go to that link, it's a Facebook link. Bygone Beauties is the one who posted it, but it's a story about Pat and President Nixon. Can you put that up, that photo? All right, just leave that photo up while I read through this. And this is on the Facebook page, on our Tamara Scott Show Facebook page, so you can read it as well. But on June 22nd, 1993, Pat Nixon suffered a severe stroke at her home in Park Ridge. New Jersey. What unfolded in her final 10 months of life revealed the extraordinary depth of Richard Nixon's devotion to the woman who'd stood by him through everything. The 79-year-old former president, despite his own declining health, became her primary caregiver, personally feeding her, reading to her daily, sleeping in a chair beside her bed every night because he couldn't bear the thought of her waking up alone or frightened. Nixon's aide, Monica Crawley, later wrote about witnessing this transformation, describing how the man known for being cold and calculating became almost childlike in his tender attention to Pat, brushing her hair gently, holding her hand for hours, playing her favorite music, and talking to her constantly even though she could no longer respond. Telling her stories from their early years together as he could will her back, as if he could will her back to health through sheer force of memory and love. What's achingly beautiful is that Nixon, who'd spent decades obsessed with the political legacy and historical reputation, suddenly stopped caring about any of that. He turned down interviews, refused public appearances, and told his staff that nothing mattered except making Pat comfortable and ensuring she knew she was loved. Saying, "She gave me 53 years of her life. The least I can do is give her every moment I have left." Friends described watching Nixon tenderly adjust Pat's pillows, wipe her face with a cool cloth during her struggles, and whisper, "I love you, buddy," his private nickname for her, dozen times a day. This man who'd always been uncomfortable with emotional expression, now openly weeping while caring for his dying wife. What's profoundly moving is the moment Nixon's nurse witnessed one afternoon when Pat was having a particularly difficult day. Barely conscious and clearly in pain, Nixon climbed into the hospital bed right beside her, carefully positioned himself so he wouldn't disturb the IV lines, and just held her, singing softly, an old song from the 1940s that they used to dance to when they were young. And everything was still possible in those days. When Pat passed away on June 22nd, 1993, exactly 53 years to the day after their wedding, Nixon was holding her hand. He later told his daughters that losing Pat was like losing half of myself. She was the better half, the kinder half, the half that made all the struggles worthwhile. At Pat's funeral, Nixon gave the eulogy and stunned everyone who knew him. His notoriously guarded man spoke with raw emotion about their courtship, about how she'd made him drive her to dates with other men, that he'd done it willingly because any time with her was precious, about how she'd saved him after Watergate when they wanted to give up on life, and about how privileged he felt to have been loved by someone so extraordinary over those 5 decades. Less than 10 months after Pat's death, on April 22nd, 1994, Richard Nixon suffered a massive stroke and died himself. His family said it was essentially lost, his will to live without Pat. He survived so much, and such a strong man to have dealt with the media as we know it today. And then I look, June 22nd, she passed away. April 22nd, he passed away. Sometimes I wonder if the dates matter, if there's a correlation there on the 22nd. Interesting. Heidi, any thoughts on that? Had you heard it before?
I hadn't heard that story before, but it is precious. I watched my dad go through this with my mom. So it's very touching. And they're real people. He may have been president, she may have been first lady, but it does show that they are real people.
Yeah, we forget that from the headlines. It's easy to allow the press or the media to put someone in a position where you cannot like them, where you can dislike them, where you can have animosity and not feel bad about it. But reading this was just, it was so good. And of course, we know one of the family members from the RNC, and I'm so honored that he said, just read this on air. I appreciate that he allowed us to do that. And there are other stories I'm sure you can read about Nixon. I've not been to that library, but it's good for all of us to remember, as we've talked about with the Reagans, with Nixon, how human they were, right? Something for us to remember. Trump doesn't quite put that same facade out there. It always seems to be polished and covered with a gold accent somewhere. But he too he too is human. We hear about his compassion side, how he calls people who have suffered. We have, as I said earlier, gubernatorial candidate Brad Sherman here in Iowa. When his daughter passed away, the president called him. Brad didn't catch the call. The president left the number and said, "Call me back." Brad called that number and he said, "I was stunned when he answered the phone. I figured it would go to an office." He was stunned when he answered the phone. So, and then his memory, Trump's memory is amazing. When you bring up anything, he remembers it. I'm struggling right now. We went through presidential facts Monday with Hal Shurtleff from Camp Constitution, and I gave one of them who got the first speeding ticket. I think it was Harding, maybe got the first speeding ticket, which was rather hilarious. Or no, who was it? I'll try and remember. For driving too fast in their buggy and horse on a street in D.C., right? All right, Heidi, any closing thoughts, whether it's Convention of States, whether it's our presidents, to this, the people?
You know, I remember seeing a picture where Nancy Reagan was laying her head in President Reagan's lap. She was sleeping, and he was going over paperwork. And I just thought that was a tender moment. I remember moments with that his son spoke about when he would visit President Reagan when he had Alzheimer's and before he passed, and how tender and precious those moments are. God gives us life. It's there until he chooses to take it, and it's precious all the way straight through.
Absolutely. And what we're admiring is that as powerful as these men were, I mean, the most powerful man in the world, if you listen to the press, though the presidency wasn't intended to be that, it was just to be the president and the head of the executive branch under our Constitution. But the most powerful men in the world, and yet their family was what was important to them. They took time out for their family. The Nixons could have had staff. He did it himself. That speaks volumes to me. I wish I would have read that long ago before my mother passed. It's a good reminder to all of us, no matter who we are, how powerful we think we are, how influential we want to be. Family is the key. It's the one thing that will matter when we pass away. It's the only thing we can take with us to eternity, are those family members that we've also shared the gospel of Jesus Christ with. And so that's a good word for all of us as it's heading into the weekend. Find somewhere where you can worship, whether it's a quiet corner of your own home, if you're a shut-in, whether it's online, if that's how you prefer, or whether it's with a body in a congregation. I think there is something to be said about the body. And I think it's a struggle for a lot of people to find a church right now that is actually teaching the gospel, believing in the power of redemption and deliverance, and the power available to us, and then dealing with the music. The church. It's not just worship, WORSHIP. It's WARSHIP in the music anymore. We should be talking about spiritual worship. We're having worship over the music. All right, Heidi, thank you for being with me today. Thank you for all the work that you do in South Dakota, and blessings to you, to everybody out there. Live boldly, love better, laugh bigger. Be encouraged, never be complacent.
You're watching